Go.
Okay. Good day again, U.S. history students. Yep. Man, I got the same clothes on as yesterday. Okay, well, here we go. Okay. Civil War is over. Today's topic is the rebuilding of the South. Rebuilding, to reconstruct. That's a 12-year time period we're going to cover the South being rebuilt physically, buildings, farms, plantations, etc., and mentally or psychologically. 1865 to 1877, Northern troops occupied parts of the South. They kind of eased up after some time, but we'll see why specifically 1877 is considered the end of Reconstruction. It doesn't just randomly end, but it might seem that way. There are three different plans on how to rebuild the South, or to how to bring them back into the Union. If you remember from the last PowerPoint lecture, I told you Lincoln's main goal was to bring the Union back together. So he wants, once the war's over, to just go easy on the South, allow them back in easily, like nothing ever happened, and he does not want to punish them at all. Treat the South as if they never left. Now the next plan is after, not long after the war, Lincoln was assassinated in April of 1865. Don't abbreviate the word assassinate. And by John Wilkes Booth. So his vice president, Andrew Johnson, not Jackson, often confused, Andrew Johnson came to office. Now I want to tell you a little bit about Johnson before I bring up this plan too. Andrew Johnson actually was a Southerner, Tennessee, former slave owner. Why would Lincoln have somebody like that run with him? Well, yeah, you have an answer there in the back?
Yeah.
What?
Wouldn't it be to like have someone from the South like in his sort of just like fixing the South when?
Well, yeah, and to gain votes.
Yeah.
Maybe you can persuade Southerners, Democrats, and stuff to vote for him, and whatnot. But Andrew Johnson, once he became president, he wasn't very well thought of. The Congress was dominated by Republicans. He had been a Democrat, and they don't like him. They want to get him out of office, and they set him up, really, to try to get him out. And what they do is, Congress, they know that now that Andrew Johnson is president, remember, president appoints his cabinet, he's going to go ahead and replace some of Lincoln's cabinet with his own people. One of those things is the Congress knows he wants a new Secretary of War. So Congress, behind his back, passes this Tenure of Office Act, meaning that he really couldn't do that, get rid of the previous president's cabinet without their approval. And he does. He fires Secretary of War Edwin Stanton. Congress says, oh, you violated the Constitution, we're going to get rid of you. They impeach him. Remember, impeach doesn't mean get rid of him. So he's the first president ever impeached, goes to trial in the Senate, and it's one vote short. He would have been removed with one more vote in favor of it, but he wasn't. But he's pretty much powerless after that. So Johnson wanted to follow Lincoln's plan. Democrat, former slave owner, the North doesn't like him. All this we can fly through, I just told you. He's impeached and he's one vote short of removal. The third plan for Reconstruction that I'm going to tell you about is complete opposite of Lincoln and Johnson, who want to go easy in the South. This is a group that wants to punish the South for leaving. They're from Congress. They're called the Radical Republicans. Harsh treatment, punishment. Two groups emerged during this time that would favor the Radical Republicans' plan. The Republicans Republican Northerners who were active in Reconstruction went to the South, called carpetbaggers. Carried all their stuff over their shoulder. You've probably seen pictures in middle school. And they were pretty harsh. They weren't very friendly to the Southerners. And another group called Scalawags, few white Southerners in government who cooperated with Northerners. So they're Southerners who cooperated with the Northern-dominated government. So they're not very well liked among the South either. And it becomes kind of a dirty word, scalawag. So if you guys come back, you can call each other scalawags. Nobody will know what you mean. Why?
You're a scalawag.
Yeah. And I don't know. Sounds like a pirate term. 3 new amendments passed. Of the 27 amendments, you don't need to memorize them. No, these 3 you should though. 13, 14, and 15. Now logically, when the Civil War, and these are all dealing with African Americans, what's the first step once the war is over in trying to make it better for African Americans? Well, it's to free them. 13th Amendment, 1865, abolished slavery. Ended it. It's on paper, but you'll see the South found ways to really still limit them. The 14th Amendment, 1868, due process of law means they're supposed to have equal protection, equal rights. On paper, yeah. In reality, no. And 15th Amendment, 1870, gave blacks the right to vote. But again, the South is going to make sure this doesn't happen. They use terror, violence. Groups like the KKK come about to make sure that they don't vote. And there's also methods used. Some of these southern cities or states say, okay, they have the right to vote. No, we're going to make sure it doesn't happen. And one thing they did was give them literacy tests. Literacy, reading, writing. First, a lot of them couldn't read, so they're going to fail automatically. Say, oh, you failed? You don't get to vote. 2, they made them so ridiculously hard that no one ever passed. Not a single person passed the literacy test. And if you were here, I would give you a copy of the Louisiana literacy test, and if we're back in a reasonable amount of time, I'll show you. You can see how crazy some of the questions they asked were. And again, to repeat myself, no one ever passed these things. Black codes were passed to keep blacks in conditions close to slavery. They weren't allowed in certain places and whatnot. Sharecropping comes about. We'll do more on that. Along with the black codes, there will be Jim Crow laws too, which I know you've heard that term. They weren't the same thing, but they were similar. Poll taxes, where people would have to pay to vote. They didn't often have money, so they couldn't vote. Literacy test, which I told you about. Grandfather clause, another ridiculous method. Said if your grandfather voted before 1870, you could vote. Well, before 1870, blacks couldn't vote. So now I'm going to kind of foreshadow here where we're going to be in a little while. Giving black men the right to vote in 1870 did stir up not just Southerners, but one particular group throughout America as well, was women. Women still didn't have the right to vote. So they were saying these people that were once considered property can now vote, and I still can't. Women wouldn't get the right for another 50 years, and that's in 1920. And that's all she wrote for Reconstruction.